gonna do the other. Yeah, okay, because I'm ready to.
Yeah, I do too. And so with MCC.
Yeah, we'll do a couple of hearings. We'll do the meeting, reset the public hearing.
Right.
Yeah. Are we, hi, Hannah, nice to see you again. It's been a while. Welcome back. You good? Okay. Hey, I've never used this before, but the room is so large. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see everybody here tonight. We're going to get started. We have a series of public hearings tonight that we're going to be conducting. The first one is going to be for Redbird Properties. They are proposing, I think it's roughly an 8,000 square foot woodworking facility out on Punkintown Road, along with some other areas there and proposed structures there. And so the purpose of tonight's meeting is to solicit any community feedback associated with this. Before we move on within this particular public hearing, I just want to let everybody know I am going to take a few things out of order. I'm going to have a couple public hearings and then we're going to convene the regular meeting to dispense with some other business so that individuals don't have to stay here. I would imagine that the vast majority of you are here probably for the Sandville Estates subdivision. So we're going to respect other people's times as well, and frankly, just not make them hold on until the bitter end.
Just speak up a little bit.
Yeah, it's,
I'm having a hard time hearing you and I'm.
yeah, I'll speak up as loud as I can. How's that, Pat? A little bit better for you?
I'm thinking about people.
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do the best I can.
We'll turn off here.
Yeah, turn up. That's good. Yeah, and so, as I was saying, we're gonna take things a little out of order tonight. We're gonna move the meeting around to try to expedite the board's business for the evening. But we will be reopening the public hearing as originally discussed back, I think it was like May 3rd, sometime back in May. When we were, first or second meeting in May, when we originally were hearing the Sandville Estates. So Neil Raposa from Civil Consultants is here to give us a general overview. And again, this opportunity for the public to hear and comment on the proposed development.
Hi there. As Greg said, my name is Neil Raposa with Civil Consultants here on behalf of Redbird Properties. And it's, as you described aptly, it's a little woodworking facility with a couple other rental units for similar businesses to rent out space in this building. It's a proposed 8,400 square foot building. We came before the board as a sketch last month and took their input, and also I had it reviewed by Chief Hamill, South Berwick Fire, and he had some comments about trying to improve access for emergency vehicles and also security items for the building itself. And those were to push back the paved area or the stabilized area that we have back here. That's going to lead back to the proposed dumpster and propane area, propane tank area. And it was suggested that we push that back and give that a little more room for the building. It was at code, but the chief suggested we push that back to allow for 12 feet. So if need be, we could get an emergency vehicle past those to access the area in the back corner here where we have two of the secondary egress points for those two smaller units. So we did that with this plan. And we put together, I'm not sure if you have it in your packet right in front of you, we put together just a small vehicle path tracking map to indicate how the larger fire trucks would be coming in and out of that if they had to in an emergency. For the most part, this would be a very rare occurrence in here, if ever, but we did want to demonstrate that the way we reconfigured this, it would allow for the largest of those 220-inch wheelbase trucks to get through there. And that was the size that the chief wanted to see on there. So I'm not sure if he was able to attend.
We have a letter.
Okay.
And so you sufficiently addressed his comments within your subsequent
Yep.
comments on that.
Gotcha.
Okay, so we're good.
So that was, yeah, that was really the only item we changed from that original, the original plan we brought in. And so happy to answer any questions if anyone has.
Any comments from the public on this proposal before us? So just kind of briefly, this is proposing to put a building already within the established industrial area over on Punkintown Road. So it already fits with all of the other prior approved subdivision plans. Any further conversation? Any further comments? Any board member comments?
Yeah, I have one question that I looked at on the diagrams before. Are the markings for the parking slots, are those fixed in design or is that adjustable? It just looked like your bigger door might be in front of two parking slots.
And we kept those, it's not gonna be necessarily marked, we wanna make sure we have the spaces. And then also the spaces that would be accommodating, that use would have that door in front of it, so it would have to be a situation where they would have to accommodate larger delivery. We discussed it with the client, and this is Kent Scoville, and he indicated that the deliveries would be kind of few and far between. It wouldn't, it's not like a factory where you'd be receiving constantly. So I don't know if you want to speak to that or.
Yeah, you'll get deliveries there. Okay. That's good. Yeah. That's all I have.
Okay, we'll bring this public hearing to end at 7:12. And then, so gentlemen, thank you very much. And as I said earlier, we'll take some items out of agenda and then we'll move on to other business and come back in to discuss some other issues. So if you want to hang around, I appreciate it. And so we're going to open up the other public hearing to discuss the ordinance amendment to chapter A 142, assessors lot merger policy. The board had a general discussion at our last meeting. We were presented with some changes to, we believe, largely bring us into compliance with some recent law court decisions. The board at the time voted to accept the proposed changes and move it to a public hearing. I do know that Verna Sharp, the town assessor, is here tonight to answer any questions that the board members might have, or any members that have any questions of the public. So with that being said, is there any comments or questions from the public regarding this proposed change? A copy of it was on our website for public dissemination and comment. So is there any further conversation? Questions? Public comment? Verna, would you like to make any statement on this, or are you all set with what has been proposed?
I'm okay with what's been proposed at this point. We'll see where it goes after this.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm frankly,
Question about,
yeah, I'm still a proponent of whether or not the planning board even has jurisdiction
Right.
within a lot merger issue. To me, I think it should really be better addressed at the Board of Assessors, which should be the town council. And so, but we'll move forward with the change and address any additional changes at another point in time. But at least initially, this, hopefully starts to correct a potential issue that might come up regarding the merging of lots. So are there any further questions, comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:14. Thank you very much. With that being said, is there the consensus of the board that we delay the next public hearing and convene the regular meeting, taking items out of order and going directly to old business? Is there any concern, with doing that? So can I have a motion to close the public hearings and then convene the regular meeing?
I move we close public hearings and convene our regular meeting.
So with that being said, I'll ask everybody to rise for the pledge of allegiance. What's that?
A second.
Oh, second, oh, sorry about that,
All in
guys.
favor?
Sorry, all in favor. Okay, thank you. All right, pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good, again, good evening, everybody. This is the regular meeting of the planning board for June 7th. And as previously discussed, we're going to move ahead on the agenda, get right to old business. The first item under old business is MSP 23004. We just conducted a public hearing on Redbird Properties, Punkintown Road, the preliminary plan. Are there any questions at this point that the board has for furthering this particular plan? This can go in a couple different directions. We can ask him to continue discussing with us information that we already know, that we've already read. I hope everybody took an opportunity to review the entire set of documentation that we received in advance of this meeting to review and come up with any issues that we might have. I don't have any questions. I understand the fire chief commented and those were subsequently answered in a follow-up communication from Mr. Raposa. This can go one of two ways. We approve the preliminary plan and we can move it to the final plan review stage, or if we're satisfied that everything is in order, we can go right to the approval process here at this point in time, right? Do we have to take it to the final plan? Or could we just skip right ahead and deem it to be complete at this point in time and issue findings of fact? We're going to give that a minute. So why don't you just go ahead and
Yeah, you can.
yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can accept the final plan and the application complete.
We'll accept it as a final plan.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So Mr. Raposa, anything that you'd like to let the board know of or any issue that the board might have?
We're really good to listen to any issues
Yeah.
you guys have, or any comment, any questions.
Yeah, again, typically what we see from you is a very well done application. So I mean, it answers everything right there. You know, and so I don't really see an issue with this, fellow board members. Are there any questions?
Nope. I move we accept as complete and final.
Been moved to accept as complete and final MSP
Oh, sorry.
23004. Is there a second to that?
Seconded.
Second has been moved and seconded. Any further conversation from the board? Seeing none, all in favor? Great, thank you very much. So what we'll do from here is we'll develop a findings of fact. We'll address that at our next meeting and be in touch with you on that. Okay?
Thanks so
All right,
much.
thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Fair enough. Yeah, thank you.
They're behind
Yeah.
it. Nice.
All right, the next item, fellow board members, is we're gonna take a look at the proposed assessor's lot merger policy. There have been no changes since we initially authorized the changes to move forward. Is there a desire of the board to move this forward?
Yes,
Yes, can there be a motion, please? And we'll send it to the town council from here.
I move we accept the ordinance amendment for chapter A 142 assessors lot merger policy as presented.
We move second.
Second.
Okay, to move any further conversation. Okay, all in favor? Aye, and so we'll send the cover letter off, send that, Jenny, to town council. All right, let me get that out of the way.
Okay.
Is anybody here from the Outlook?
No,
No,
No. Okay.
we can do that one at the end then. Okay. With that being said, I'm gonna call for a recess in the regular meeting, if we can have a motion for that.
Do you want to do public comment or approval? We can just get back to.
Yeah, I suppose.
Because we're in the regular.
I
let's do
suppose
that
we could.
before we
So-
go back to public things.
Typically speaking, before we reconvene the public hearing, we always allow individuals an opportunity to speak on anything that's not on the agenda. You all will have an opportunity to speak on Sandville in the public hearing if that's what you're here for. But is there a desire of anybody else to speak on any other item that is not on the agenda? Okay, so we're good with that one.
And
And then the approval of minutes, is there a motion to approve the May 3rd, 2023 minutes? I read them, I'm fine.
I move we approve the May 3rd, 2023 minutes.
Second.
Any further conversation? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, those minutes are passed. So, what we'll do.
We're gonna get out of here in 15 more minutes.
So what we'll do from here is we will suspend the regular meeting and we'll call the public hearing for, oh, what number do we have here? Public hearing, Sandville, MSP 22003. This is a continuation of a public hearing that was originally conducted and starting on May 3rd. And so the public hearing will be open for continued comments. So that being said, we'll open it at 7:20. Before we begin, which I have a few comments to make just from the board perspective. Is there anybody in the public that would like to make some comments on that? And again, welcome to the town of Berwick. Thank you for being here to take part in this continued conversation with us. Appreciate it. So thank you. Are there any further conversations? Yes, Mr. Yeah.
Tony Palazzini, Whitetail Drive.
Do you want him coming up? Is there a reason? Okay, can you come up,
It's
please?
captured appropriately on.
Yeah, fair enough. So you just come name and residency.
Tony Palazzini, Whitetail Drive, Middle Pond Estates. Just a question, actually. You heard from a lot of our homeowners at the last meeting, the last public hearing. And I don't want to, have you sit through a rehash of all of what you heard before, but as we left the last session, there was conversations going on about alternate access points that might be possible over through Industry Drive or someplace else in Berwick or North Berwick. And it may be a little preliminary for us to offer any additional comments until we hear some of the results of what was evaluated over the last month.
Yeah, no, fair enough. As Ken Wood here. Well, there you are. It's a public hearing, so are you speaking for the homeowners association? I know you have counsel. Or,
We do. I happen to be the sitting president of the homeowners
Okay.
association, but I'm not speaking for the other
okay,
homeowners that are here.
okay, so Ken, you can at some point come up and
Mr.
answer.
Chair, the
Yes.
council is on Zoom.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, forgot it's behind me. I'm usually used to looking at it in front of me. So I agree, and I'll just say thank you for the comments that were received. We did receive some legal briefs from each of the opposing attorneys. We have that information. We do have comments from members of the public who live over there, so thank you for taking the time to draft those for us. And are there any further public comment? Is there anything new people want us to know? Yes, we will get to the alternate access. Is there anything new anybody here on this board needs to be advised of? Pat?
Pat Robinson, Brattle Street, and I'm chair of the Conservation Commission. And I just have a concern that there's 35 houses going up and filling up all the uplands, and it's surrounded by wetlands. And sure, the wetlands will help flood control, but it's gonna be all wet all around this house. So it's just a concern, and we want taking up all the wetlands. Critters won't have any place to go because there's gonna be houses there. So it's just an environmental concern.
Is there anybody on Zoom that wishes to make a comment while we're in a public hearing?
So I'll reserve my comments till after Mr. Wood presents. This is Attorney Mark Lawrence. He and I have had some conversations, so after he presents, if I could say a few words after that.
Okay, we can, that's fine. Anybody else on Zoom? Seeing none, Ken, you want to come up and, talk a little bit about that? Because I do know that we have received some plans that have some alternate entrance points, which, raise a whole set of other issues, frankly. Maybe good, maybe bad, we don't know yet. So would you like to address those alternate access and what you're thinking of?
Members of the board, I'm Ken Wood from Adler Engineering. Wyatt Page, the engineer that worked on it's with me. Carol Mitt, the owner and developer, is with me. Sandy Gay is with me, our attorney. Jen had asked us to put together a plan that showed all the accesses and asked us to bring enough copies, so I have 20 copies.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that, because one of the things I know that I struggle with is all the different access points, and, it's one thing to see it on a plan, you see it here, and then you see it there. But, to have something of an overall sketch of, for orientation purposes, I think would be good for, purposes of this conversation. So I think this will be good, hopefully it will be understandable.
There should be, there's 20 of them.
We have a copy of those already, so.
Well, the copy I had. Here, Bill. If there's enough, you just want to hand some out in the public so they can have an idea as to what we're talking about and. to go.
Wyatt has it on the big plan.
Then Wyatt, I have a copy, you kind of can talk, if you want to turn around and kind of point to when he's talking, that would be very helpful for members of the public, thank you.
So you would ask us to look at an alternate access. We did, we sent some, I sent a sketch with correspondence on that a couple weeks ago. As I mentioned, Jen had asked us this morning to put together a plan. I believe the chair requested it, that would show the access routes through Industry Drive, through an alternate parcel to North Berwick and to Meadow Pond. And that's what that one plan shows. You'll see Route 4 on it, and you'll see Nice Pond Road on it and the different accesses. That alternate road is about 2,900 linear feet. It's a very expensive road. It has about 9,000 square feet of wetland impacts. It modifies our level of permitting with DEP, but it also crosses the open space for Meadow Pond Phase 1 and Phase 2. That's deeded open space. That was a condition of this board's approval. So I don't really believe that we can take that open space, revise it, and put a road through it. I think that would violate the approval of Meadow Pond 1 and Meadow Pond 2. It was the open space that the zoning required to be part of the subdivision. Sam Mick signed that deed, transferring it to the HOA in 2006, I believe. It's funny, Carol and I were at the Southborough Water District meeting last night. You all remember John Leach was at your last meeting. John, I don't believe is coming tonight. But we were talking about putting power to the pump house because the well fields are in place on a piece of property adjacent to ours. That was a piece that Sam had conveyed to the Southborough Water District several years ago. And I asked them why the wells are in place, but there's no pump house. And their response was, well, we thought the infrastructure would be in. We knew that Meadow Pond 1, Meadow Pond 2, and what they called Meadow Pond 3 was going in. And with that, it would have provided the infrastructure, the piping to connect to their well field. The other comment that they had was that their preferred means of access to that pump house when they would service it regularly would be over Industry Drive, because from the water district's office and their plant to their pump house, as they called it, was a straight shot. I don't think anyone's really arguing that the intent wasn't to connect Industry Drive to Meadow Pond Road through what we're calling Samville now. It showed on the approved plans for both Industry Drive and Meadow Pond Phase 1 and Phase 2. So I still believe that's the best means of access. We can discuss how to mitigate the traffic. I know that, of course, we've heard from the public, and I understand these concerns about the children co-mingling with the industrial traffic, and we certainly have certain, different ways of mitigating that. But, I grew up next to the Massachusetts Turnpike. I knew not to play in the Turnpike. My parents didn't even tell me that. I was telling the folks back here, one day we climbed over the fence, we dammed up the drainage ditch on the side of the turnpike, and the cops woke us up at 2 a.m. because we shut down the whole turnpike. But you knew not to play in the turnpike, and I think we all have some responsibility in that. As engineers, we have liability, and we try to practice and mitigate that liability to the best of our abilities. So I believe we can protect, I don't see the industrial traffic coming down Industry Drive through Samville, through Meadow Pond 1 and through Meadow Pond 2 and out to Nice Pond. I don't think that is going to happen. We've talked about ways of protecting that, say with a roundabout that the industrial traffic just couldn't go through. We talked about gates. We talked about certain ways of separating residential traffic from the industrial traffic. So our preferred means of access, it's what has always been approved. It's what this board has approved twice in two different sketch plans. It's what we've gone through to preliminary plan, the plans that are in front of you now, and also the plans that have been submitted to the DEP. So we've done the full design on, as you know, on what's on your preliminary plan. We've submitted that to DEP, who's reviewing it under a site location and development permit. You know, I still believe that's the method that was always proposed for both the industry drive-in and the Meadow Pond end. It's the best means of access, to have two means of access. This alternative road, I think it's going to violate the approval conditions of Meadow Pond Phase 1, Phase 2. It's 3,000 more feet of road. The cost of that is anywhere between $800 and $1.2 million, depending on what we decide for standards for that road. So it's an expensive, long road. And it would also, I mean, to me, it seems funny that we're going to hopefully get to the approval of a subdivision in South Berwick that we really can't access from South Berwick. If we secure the access through Meadow Pond, we're either gonna have to go through Berwick to get to it, or we're going to have to go through North Berwick to get to it. I don't know how you plow that road. You're going to have to send your municipal plow trucks up to either Route 4 and access it through the alternative road that I've shown you, or through Industry Drive. I mean, to me, that's gonna be a tough sell. Anyway, those are my comments, Mr. Chairman.
But Ken, isn't that what you're proposing by going out to Industry
No.
Drive, that plowing issue, the maintenance does become a longer term issue?
Well, but I'm not proposing that we secure the access through Meadow Pond. You know, if the Meadow Pond Road access is left open, that's how you get to Sandville. You'd stay in the town of South Berwick.
Right, but to get to the new division, the subdivision, you'd still would go through if Samville or if Meadow Pond wasn't. I guess I'm losing you a little
Okay.
bit here.
So
It sounds a little counterintuitive here, what you were saying.
the proposal was always to have two means of access. Right, Samville
Yeah.
access through Meadow Pond Road.
Yeah.
Which is in South Berwick.
Yeah.
But Samville access through Industry Drive, which is in Berwick. And Mark Lawrence and I have spoken on the phone and discussed a few things. I'm sure Mark will weigh in. I think Mark's and the homeowners association in Meadow Pond, their preferred method is to secure that gate at Meadow Pond. They don't, I'm going to speak for them. They don't want the additional traffic. So let's use that as an example. If that access is secured, you can't get to a Samville, a subdivision in South Berwick through South Berwick.
Understood.
So
Yeah,
that's-
and that gets to frankly, a legal question that we're gonna have to ask about the requirement for two access
means of
points.
access.
Yeah, so, legally speaking, I don't know if that's something that we would want to be going down. I think that's a legal question that's gonna have to be reviewed as to whether or not that a gate is put in, and if that then violates our own zoning ordinance requiring two access points. But go ahead, Hershey.
No, then I just wanted to clarify a few things on the map. Could you turn around for a second?
Sure.
Make sure there's clear, okay, you're not. So can you point out, on the new road, where the open space is? Is it outlined somehow or delineated?
It's right here.
It's just sort of like where it takes the curve.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Okay. And what is that line right? Come here.
If you turn that, he can turn the plan over and you'll see the open space on the approved plan.
What's this right
That
there?
was the edge of a wetland.
That's the edge of a wetland.
Yes.
So that's like, oh, but the wetland's on the other side.
All of these dark solid hatches are
Yep.
wetland disturbances.
So this is wetland here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ryan, if you turn your plan over, Hershey will see it on the approved.
Let me see
plan.
the approved plans.
Yes.
Right, the next, you flip this over, right here.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, oh, thank you.
This line is the one that you were looking at.
Yeah.
And our proposition would run around here. Came through this is our chunk of open space. You're running up through here. And then connecting somewhere up in this area.
The road results in, I think, four different wetland crossings. The total's about 9,000 square feet.
Okay, and I am clearly not an engineer of any type, civil, mechanical, electrical, or otherwise, but is there some reason you couldn't just sort of like put a unit here and put the road going through here without then?
Are you close to lot 3, Hershey? Can you,
Yeah, this one, the one on the
Well,
edge next to the
yes.
detention pond?
we looked at that and we could do that. I believe your ordinance limits the length of dead end streets to 600 feet, so that would cause a problem because we'd have those two cul-de-sacs approach 1,000 feet.
Like, why not just do that? You can get his extra, you can get another spot right there and make the road go through there. I did, I drew it in.
to do a waiver on the road.
You'd have to do a waiver on road length, and we'd still
Did
end
you
up.
ask for a waiver on the length anyway? I'm
No,
sorry.
no, that was originally, that went away.
Oh, that went away, sorry.
Any rendition.
No waivers on road.
Okay.
But that still impacts the DEP permitting aspect.
Right, and the road is still, and I looked at that, the road is still 1,600 feet long in that scenario. It's not 2,900 feet long, but it is 1,600 feet long.
Monorail?
Okay, but for purposes, I really think this board needs to start looking a little bit more methodically here, and, there's two issues going on here. We need to know what Berwick is gonna do.
If
Do
I
you
may,
have an answer for that?
if I may,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I know the question came up before and Attar's letter dated May 19th, paragraph 2, I think we all know that that's just not a tenable solution. We're not gonna go through wetlands, we're not gonna put in over half a mile of road, and it's not cost effective to you, and it's not good for the environment. We've talked about Stone Lane, and as I look at this overlay map, Stone Lane could dogleg over into that subdivision. It would be very inexpensive, comparatively so, and less impactful to the environment, and it gives you direct out onto Route 4. And I just don't understand what the aversion is to utilizing Stone Lane, because Miss Mick herself in the last meeting had brought up that that was a road that was a good access point for that lane. So I'm trying to wrap my head around the why we wouldn't pursue that.
I believe there's a large pond there that we would have to fill or get over. And I believe Stone Lane's a private road without a deeded right of way. So we'd have to buy the fee interest in Stone Lane that we have no real right to buy and create a 50-foot right of way and improve Stone Lane.
But this gets to the one of the core issues, because now this gets a little bit more complicated with the two access point issues. One, we need an answer either way from Berwick. You're either gonna say yes or you're gonna say no.
I can speak on that as well.
Yeah.
So I talked with James and I talked with Irish, and Industry Drive is a private road. As long as it meets our standards to our ordinances, you can put it wherever you want. We have no authority to say you have to put it there. So if you want it on Industry Drive, that is where that's what we'll do.
But does that have to go through your site plan though?
Yes, we would just have,
We would need the updated DOT permit and it would have to be built to town standards.
Yep.
Right, but if it's a private road, are they're gonna have to work with the owners over there then too.
We have the right title and interest, so.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is,
yeah, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, this is one thing that the board required a few
Yeah,
times ago,
okay.
so we,
Yeah.
yes.
right.
So really, we need to, ultimately see understood, but we're gonna need to see what if Berwick says yes or no. I mean, I kind of getting the sense as to where you're going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get where that, I
We
get where
have
that's,
to say yes.
We
Yeah.
don't have any legal
You have-
rights, so we're just saying.
you don't have, okay,
Right.
and so, but you have the right to put conditions on and
Yes.
everything. Okay.
One of the thoughts for conditions is if South Berwick and Berwick could condition it, so heavy load vehicles aren't allowed on that road.
How are you gonna do that in there?
The what?
The connector.
Yeah, well,
Right, yeah, okay.
so after basically the industrial area, we would limit it to just regular vehicles and not heavy vehicles.
Okay, so have
But
you,
that would have to be something that full, so that way it's
Yeah.
easier to enforce. But it'd be difficult to enforce that.
oh,
But
yeah.
it would also.
Yeah, it would be
keep the
very
commercial
difficult.
Traffic off of the.
Well, why would commercial traffic go?
Yeah, I don't think that it's not gonna be a shortcut.
An extra measure of protection that would give us,
Yeah, it's fine.
if somebody calls Jennifer or I and says,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah,
seeing this particular truck go by repeatedly, it would give her an eye for that.
So where are you in your review? Have you submitted an application to the town of Berwick, an actual application?
No, I guess I'm not sure what we're submitting the application
Well,
for
they
that
need to-
section of road.
I would speak with Hannah on that and see what we would have to do.
If you have to do anything in Berwick, it would be related to
the upgrades to the road itself because it is part of a previously approved subdivision. However, I don't know if that's actually the case, because I don't really know what was approved when that subdivision was approved, as far as what the road would be like.
But yeah, the approval plan had an industrial road detail on it. I don't think the road has been built to the approved plans, but I can, if you want to look into that, I can send you the approval and the findings on.
If there's
industrial.
anything that needs to go through Berwick, it would be related to the physical building of the road, if it's different than what was approved,
Yeah,
whatever the industrial park was approved.
understand.
If that's not the case, then nothing needs to go to Berwick's thing.
Right, okay.
So
Because
just
Industry
bringing
Drive-
it up, to whatever was approved way back when, maybe.
Or whatever the town standards are now.
Yeah, the town standards have been updated for roads, so it would have to meet the new
If
standards.
I may project, I believe from previous conversations with James that that road was not brought up to what was on conditions previously anyway. So it was due to be
Okay,
completed properly, so now it has to be completed properly to today's standards.
So Mr. Chair.
yeah,
I would
perfect.
just talk to James tomorrow, because I talked to him on the phone last week. And he thought that that road was up to standards and paved all the way to Shapley. And I was like, I don't remember it being that, and he was like, yes, it's definitely, but I don't remember
I
either.
don't recall that from the sidewalk.
Yep,
No.
and
All
I was
rock and
telling you what he said.
Yeah, no, I'm
So-
saying I agree with you. It's not.
Yep,
No,
and then,
right.
also. Check your ordinance, because that's an industrial zone, and I don't think you can really limit that load until it hits the South Berwick line. Because that is their industry, you know,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, I know, I
industrial
get
zone. So just check on that, because I'm not clear on that, but I did talk to James about it, and it sounds like that's kind of.
So I still see this as kind of one issue that needs to be resolved. It's kind of like the chicken and the egg or whatever comes first. I really think we need to see something from Berwick. And if then you ask us to co-condition, whatever you want to ask, I would absolutely take a look at that if that's the direction we go in as a board. You know, we would honor it. I think we're after the same thing if it goes through with the limiting the traffic. Is that something you folks can look at? I mean, I know you have to look at the original subdivision plan, and I don't know what the requirements are in Berwick.
So I have those, so their
What?
town manager sent them over, the subdivision plans
Okay,
for previous, the only thing that we need from Berwick that's outstanding right now is their updated road. Standard ordinance, that's it,
You need me to send that to you, Jenny?
yeah, it's, because you guys, I can pull it, but you guys have to provide it. You know.
right,
Yes,
but I guess what I'm
I
saying
know.
here though is, listen, I'm just taking one scenario here, which the board hasn't voted on. Let's just say we move forward with this and then they condition the heck out of it. And it makes it untenable for you in terms of the road standards. I don't know what those are. I haven't looked at them. And then lo and behold, it doesn't work out, and now you can't meet our requirement for two entrances essentially. So I'm just trying to wonder, when and where do we say, hey, I don't want to say, yeah, hey, we're good, and then something happens that we don't agree with, and I don't know what that would be until I see it in writing.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, yeah.
My comment, sorry. This is Cindy Gay, attorney from Archipelago for the applicant. I'm not quite understanding why this board can't act on the application in front of it for South Berwick, subject to having 2 points of access. So that just leaves it up to the applicant to make sure he has that second point of access, but it doesn't really change this board's review of what's happening in South Portland. I'm sorry, something.
I understand what you're saying. I don't know if I agree with it, leaving it up to the developer, no offense. Because the other issue here is, if it ultimately is no on that, and then you're gonna go turn around and talk to North Berwick, that's a substantive change to the whole entire plan itself. And, now I question, depending on what this board wants to do. Yeah, I understand, and I wrote down the constraints that you believe you have going through up into North Berwick, but now you gotta involve North Berwick. And is this a subdivision or whatever you're doing up here in North Berwick? Is that in the town. Is that going through their planning process now? And
Going to their planning board tomorrow night, Mr. Chairman, for the
Okay.
first time.
yeah, so what did you propose to them? Did you propose this being connected to them or no?
I did not,
Okay.
because
You did, yeah,
it was after it was submitted, and I
Sure.
pretty much figured I'd see what happened tonight, and if for some reason we want to pursue that, I would discuss that at the meeting tomorrow night.
Okay,
But I don't, if Industry Drive is a primary or second means of access, and it's a condition of approval that it meets the road standards, and we say post a performance guarantee accordingly, I would assume that's how business is done, and that's how it's ensured that that work gets done.
That's how.
yeah, I get it. It's pretty straightforward.
Mr. Chair, just
Yeah,
one
yeah.
concern. I mean, it's your board as well as ours. We're charged with, ensuring public safety. If I lived in that neighborhood and it abutted an industrial park, I would have serious misgivings about my kids out there riding bicycles and such. And I just want to make sure, are we doing our due diligence as joint boards in ensuring public safety?
No, that's kind of why I'm wondering where you're going with it.
Well,
I'm not looking to pass the buck, but I'm looking to know what we're doing.
No, for me, it doesn't pass a litmus test for public safety. And that is our charge as a planning board.
I understand that, but, and I get that, and I have children, I understand all the concerns, but as somebody who's spent about 15 years of raising her children on a road that literally had a mineral extraction operation on either side and fully loaded dump trucks going by, there is kind of a burden on the parents to make sure we don't let our kids play in roads that are getting run over, and this is substantially safer than how my very healthy and thriving children were raised. So, I mean, there are things that were put in place with those mineral extractions operations to make sure the trucks weren't, speed limits, et cetera, et cetera. But that's where it comes down to us to just condition what we can, because it's not like they're gonna be directly on top of it or having to travel through there. So it's, I understand a lot of the concerns, but when you look at the overall picture and outside world beyond this one project, it's really not, it's not like we're throwing the kids to schools. Kind of. And so I want to see some conditions on it, but, as a code officer who Jenny and I are going to be the ones that get the calls if the people from Industry Drive are going through, and Jenny might have a different stance on it because we're both moms, but, as the people that are going to be, getting the calls of complaints, if there's traffic going through there that shouldn't be, we want it conditioned properly so that we, A, don't have falls hopefully, but B, if we do, we have teeth to enforce. But we also have to follow the ordinances and regulations. And we have to do it based on facts rather than feelings, unfortunately.
Well, the fact is, it's an industrial complex. I just want to make sure
Yeah.
that that's on the record and
Oh, yeah,
it's a
absolutely.
definite concern.
But I think we need to turn our minds to what conditions might actually work for preventing any issues.
I don't think it's a question of really protecting kids as it is also protecting those businesses that are already established in there. And I see that both ways.
Well,
So,
they got permits there already to operate.
Yeah. but that's what I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think definitely there's gonna have to be some. Whatever the outcome would be, there's gonna have to be some road calming measures put in. And I think that does go as far as looking at the exit onto Knights Pond. To what extent it had to meet site distance and the meet site distance, but maybe some basic clearing on the right hand side. With all the knotweed that's over there and some trees, at least to see a little bit further up.
Mr. Chair, can
Yeah.
I just speak on this?
Yeah,
real
go
quick?
ahead.
So,
very well, thank
me,
And we'll just.
no one's ever said that to me before.
Yeah, I'll speak louder. I got it.
Yeah, I might get it. Couple things.
Yeah.
One, Berwick PD hasn't even had a chance to weigh in on this and they haven't seen the application. They probably should. Berwick PD.
So
Yeah.
But again, Jenny, I think
But
we
hold
need to kind of go through.
But hold on, let me
yeah.
tell you why I just
Yeah.
said that. Signage is gonna be appropriate in it, and then they can patrol it. However, Industry Drive is a private road, so they're not gonna patrol it. You know what I mean? So we can condition that application any way we want to, right? And we all know that doesn't mean that it's gonna meet those conditions.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
we need to think about that, right? So we know that when you come in, do you want me to stop talking?
Yeah, no,
Just
go
come in.
ahead, Jenny. It's, yeah, no,
Come
it's
in the
okay.
Industry Drive and the businesses kind of stop and then it's quite a ways in a little bit, till we get to the houses, like we need to think about that,
Mhm.
And the businesses unfortunately are just gonna have to be respectful. I mean, you can condition it all you want, but you can't control it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Very good point.
Is there anybody on Zoom that wants to make a comment at this point? Attorney Lawrence, did you want to say anything?
Let me unmute myself. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy. You heard my comments, you saw my letter. We don't concede the point that Ken Wood made that it was always contemplated that there would be this residential development at the end of this, but putting that aside, I think we're willing to sit down and talk with Ken and the developers about, options and ways to minimize the impact on Meadow Pond Drive as much as possible. And so that's kind of where we're at this point. There is open space back there that is owned by Meadow Pond. It's not under any Great Works easement or anything like that. And my understanding, and I may be incorrect, is that planning boards have the ability to modify subdivisions. So if there was some kind of land swap, open space for open space, there's a potential of modifying that Meadow Pond subdivision if that was land that they needed for access.
You know where that is?
Yes, and it's essentially, I can't point to it because the diagram, but it's where on the North Berwick proposal, it's where that road comes across to Meadow Pond. That's essentially open space on the subdivision plan that was to be deeded to Meadow Pond Homeowners Association by the mix. But it's not under any conservation easement or a third-party restriction on it.
And is that what you've done here, or is he, I don't know what he's talking about.
It's the same parcel. where it was,
Yeah, the open space, but it's.
So it's this space.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, hang on, Tony.
Sorry, Ken,
That's
I
okay.
wanted to do your.
So it is this space that we've been talking about, Mark Lawrence has been talking about. And
Like right there.
yeah, it's that first neck.
If you could turn it a little, Tony, so I could see it too. Nope, the other way. Towards the camera, right there.
Yeah,
It's this piece, Mark, right?
correct.
Yep, exactly.
It's approximately 10 acres of land here, and researching everything I could find on the original development, phase 1, phase 2, and any restrictions put on that. There aren't any. It's just, this was set aside because of the cluster subdivision. So that goes to our point about if we were to offer up some kind of access through that space into the North Berwick proposed development up there, we could offset whatever land was impacted here by potentially, a chunk down here, maybe what we would prefer, maybe deed the right of ways to us to offset some of that acreage and do that land swap. It would have to go before the planning board because it would be a amendment to the original phase 2 proposal. But it is doable. And like I say, as much as I have researched it, there's no prohibition about future use of that property. It was just deeded to us as the offset for the cluster subdivision.
Well, it's supposed to be maintained as open space.
Right.
Well, and that's what I say,
There is a restriction on it, whether it's the land trust owns it or not, or you own it, it's still open space.
and we would then look for some type of a swap so that the commensurate amount of acreage would be, remain available as open space.
So we have to start making some decisions here for the benefit of all parties.
I just add to Tony's comment, it's not just the town of South Berwick
Yeah.
also, it's DEP and there
Right.
is a covenant and restriction document, but they would have to amend their site location development. permit.
And answer the question, are you interested in pursuing anything like that or no?
I don't believe we are, because
Okay.
we would still need to
Okay,
build 1,600 feet of road. We have 4 additional wetland index. Puts us into a totally new tier with compensation. The in lieu fee program, Mark, on that compensation, because we'd be over the 15,000 square feet. The in lieu fee cost alone is $98,000. That's what the offset would be to compensate, because it does put us into a different level of permitting. We go from 8,800 square feet of impact to 17,900, I believe.
okay. All right.
Do I have an opportunity for a few more comments? sir?
Well, I want to know if Attorney Lawrence is done.
I'm done for the time being, yes.
Right, thank you. So it's still a public hearing.
Thank you, sir. So again, Tony Pelizetti, Meadow Pond Estates. Interesting comment about Stone Lane and not knowing if there was an actual right of way. When I reviewed the Berwick tax map for that particular parcel, it's listed on the tax map as a right of way. So you're gonna have to confirm that, but that's what I saw. Stone Lane actually is deeded as a right of way on the Berwick tax map. Still listed as a private road on the sign, but you're gonna have to look at that. I'm still not certain the issue about the land swap isn't doable. I understand there would be some adjustments to the permitting requirements. And that would be an expense, but that's one of the things we've said from the beginning of this is that, you know, there is a cost to looking to develop this piece of property now. And to just bring it into Meadow Pond because it's there and it reduces the amount of roadway that has to be built. You know, okay, now you're transferring the potential increased costs of this developer onto the property values of the 18 homeowners in Meadow Pond. Because I guarantee you our property values are going to drop if we have a bypass going through there, okay? We've offered a couple of options. I think they're worth pursuing. You know, we'll have to, you know, hopefully have an opportunity to sit down with Mr. Wood and some of his team and talk about some of these, you know, things that are out there. We're willing to work. We're willing to sit down, roll up our sleeves and try to come up with alternatives. I was a little surprised when I saw the plan that was presented tonight with that long extended winding road that bisected 10 acres that actually belongs to the homeowners association. If that's not doable, if we're being told now that it can't be done because of permitting adjustments and costs of those permitting adjustments, why was it proposed? Why was it put on the table in front of you?
I actually thought you would ask for it.
No. So I would really just like the opportunity for the homeowners association, you know, with our attorney to sit down with the engineering firm, sit down with the developer and see if we can't work out some solution that would be equitable for all. Instead of time after time coming up here and seeing options that maybe aren't even realistic options. So.
All right.
So you have, I think, the plans for all phase 1, phase 2, Sandville industry. You have the letter that I sent and I tried to explain it in that.
Yep.
Those were all approved with the connection. It was always planned from the beginning that those would be connected. I understand that people in the subdivision now would prefer to have it a different way. But the fact is that when they purchased those lots, that's what they bought. They bought into those approved subdivisions that connected all of these lands to get all of these pieces together. This board always approved it. In fact, there was conditions on the approvals talking about that right of way has to be maintained to connect to the next section. So this board is always, or this, you know, board and predecessor has always approved it that way. It's always been understood that that's the way it's going to go. The alternative was put on paper because I believe the homeowners attorney and homeowners in this board had asked that the developer look to see if there was anything out there This was the best they could come up with. It's not good and it's really not feasible. And it's probably, I don't know, $1 million by the
Yeah,
time you're through.
About 1.2.
$1.2 million for something that, I mean, to ask the developer to even consider that when they've gotten all of these approvals all along that has connected this road, and that's always been the intent to connect those roads. So it's just not a feasible plan, and it's really not fair to this developer to be looking at something like that at this point. Where the plans are recorded. Presumably there was title work done when people bought property, and it should have. If the title attorney didn't show it to them, that's unfortunate. But it was always a part of what was bought when people bought property.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, can I just add?
Yeah, go ahead, Jenny.
I also just want to make the board clear in the town, the town of Berwick board as well as Irish, that Industry Drive might be a private road, but Meadow Pond Road is a public South Berwick road. We maintain it, we plow it.
Well, like I said, I see several legal issues, whether we put a gate in, what does that do in relation to access? Yeah, Knox boxes, but again, we need to see if there's legal issues surrounding that and that one very issue you just raised. Because we're saying that that's a public road that's going to be going over a private road. And, going from one town to the other. I'm sure there's ways around it, but I don't know what those are. So, yeah, and, maybe you granted, I don't know, since you have the interest in it, right?
My point in saying that is like.
It's a private
So
road
we've
going
heard-
onto a public road.
No, that's not my point, though. My point is that the Minks own it on the Berwick side, right? But town of South Berwick owns
Right.
it on our side. So we can't sign it until it hits Berwick, right? South Berwick, which is fine. But my point is, we also can't control cars that are leaving or entering there because it is a public road, right? We all could drive down there. We won't, but we could.
Yeah, no, I
You know?
see longer term issues.
So I
associated with
understand the
maintenance.
homeowner's point. However, adding a subdivision there, it is a public road.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple legal issues on our end that we need to work out. Were you gonna say something, Hershey?
No, just,
All right.
I'm just,
Anybody in Zoom that has further comments? Okay, is there any more public comment? This is the public comment. Go ahead. If you got something to say, say it.
Real quick. I disagree about the word intent. None of us knew the intent. There's nothing presented to you that said phase 3. The board that was proudly displayed at the entrance to this did not depict this road, this right of way. So for 10 years that board was used as a marketing tool for this development, there was not a connect right of way was
Yeah.
not on that marketing tool.
Yeah.
And so intent is not there.
So, listen, I can't necessarily agree or disagree because I wasn't there when this was done. And we can't necessarily, in my view, look at what the intent may or may not have been at the time. It almost is immaterial for purposes of this conversation because it comes down to what the ordinances allow. So the intent, while you may be on this side and the current developer may be on this side, it doesn't have a lot of meaning other than as a homeowner at the time when you purchased it, you probably feel, that you're getting shafted to some degree, right? Call it what it is. But again, I don't necessarily think that that can be an issue that we address as part of our permitting process because it is land that is able to be developed. And so I'm not looking to shoot you down there. I get it.
And so continuing on, all we ask is that you
Yeah.
give us the opportunity
Yeah.
before any decision is being made. So that our council
Yeah.
can work with this and maybe find.
Yeah.
Before,
So
postpone the
nothing-
decision.
Nothing prevents the HOA from having those conversations outside of this forum.
Right.
And so if you want your council to engage with them, have at that,
Thank you.
and I would, I don't disagree with that. Are there any further comments? Anything new? Is there anything new that people want us to know?
If I could, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
Address council's comment about the intent and, you know, what was there. And all you had to do is go on the sidewalk and see the condition of the right of way that the documentation says was to remain available for emergency access into the neighborhood. And you could not get an emergency vehicle through that road. You haven't been able to get any vehicle through that road into the Meadow Pond cul-de-sac probably since 2008. Okay? So if it was so important and it was always designed that this was going to be a secondary access and it was right in the approved plan that that was going to remain available for emergency access, why wasn't it kept up and maintained as that emergency access?
I understood.
So when I hear, well, there's going to be conditional requirements on this and we'll start our work and then we'll get to addressing those issues. I gotta be honest, and no disrespect, you weren't here at the time. I don't trust it. I don't trust it'll get done. So.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Jack Gold, 45 Meadow Pond. I guess I have a question for the board and forgive my naivete here, but during the permitting process, the original permitting process, when all of this was put together, I'm assuming this is going back probably, I don't know, 20-ish years or so. If the situation has changed, that is to say that Industrial Drive probably wasn't Industrial Drive at that point, probably didn't have all that major equipment at that point. We're talking about maybe potentially putting in a second access. Does the board have the right to now come back and say conditions have changed, therefore, because we weren't aware of those conditions at the original permitting process, maybe we need to make some modifications with permit? And I don't know the answer to that. I'm kind of asking you if that's
I
possible.
mean, that's a interesting question.
Okay.
I don't have an answer. Does
Okay.
anybody here? Again. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that. I don't know if there's any relevance to today in terms of the proposed development going in, they'd be subject to the conditions of today. You
Yeah,
know,
I guess
and again, other than, again, listen, I get it, right? I understand what you feel you may have been told. I wasn't there, I don't know.
Right.
And so I'll take you at your word, but again, what does that mean for how we have to review it today? I'm not looking to kick it to the curb, but I understand and respect that, but I can't, in my own view right now, use that as the guiding piece of, well, we're not gonna do it because you weren't advised.
No, I guess I was.
I understand what you're saying about the original conditions. Is
Right.
there some past violation or because conditions have changed? Is that, where were they gonna put the second egress at that one time?
Right.
Is a question that comes to my mind.
And that's, I guess, what
Yeah,
I was asking is
Yeah.
there looking forward, looking now versus looking.
Yeah.
2 decades ago. or whatever it
Well, I
was.
get it. I wrote it down. Yeah,
Right.
no, I wrote it down and, you know, there are some legal issues that are coming up on the town side that will be engaging our attorney. So, you know, I have a list of questions here and we'll get some guidance on.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, what's your name?
Sorry, Jack Gold.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak on this matter? This is gonna be at this point, the end of the public hearing. Yeah, you know, other than the meetings going up for general conversation in the future. This would be it. I guess what I would say, and this would be a question for both parties. And what by both parties, I mean the HOA for Attorney Lawrence and then for you folks. Are there any legal or factual issues that you feel we don't know or that you need to bring to our attention at this point in time?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to follow up like a couple comments from Tony and the other gentleman. The reason I say intent is that second means of access is noted in 2 notes, both for Meadow Pond 1 and Meadow Pond 2.
I read that.
And those plans are on record.
Yeah, I read that.
So that's, I don't want to just throw out words, well, the intent was.
Mhm.
To me, that's factual. If they're on a plan that's recorded, most homeowners would look at the recorded plan when they were purchased.
So again, is there anybody else that wishes to speak on this matter? Yeah, go ahead.
The only addition, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mark.
So the only additional legal point I would make is, I realize standard for development has changed now. You have two access points. You know, a waiver was granted for this phase 1 and phase 2 to allow to reach the distance of a dead end street. I guess my question is, what was contemplated? Was a dead end development contemplated at this end? Or was that right of access reserved for somebody's home, somebody to build a nice family home or something like that off that? So we don't really know what that was reserved for. And in some of these plans, it's hard for me to see how you're going to get a cul-de-sac in there without another waiver unless you access through Industry Drive.
Thank you.
We actually do know, there's, on the, phase 2 plan, note 12, lots 14 and 15 contain deed restrictions for the future extension of Meadow Pond Road. The area indicated in detail AB shall be exchanged to allow the road to meet town of South Berwick road standards. That was the reason for that.
So, yeah, that's in there.
Do you want to, I think it will be your.
It is easy to read this.
Yeah.
Right. That little-
Yeah, sometimes the little ones are really, really hard to read.
I know that's for.
So are there? I'm gonna do similar to what we did the last time. I'm gonna leave this hearing technically open for comments for an additional until Friday at 4. Oh, let me finish and then I won't close it out without hearing from Berwick as well. And maybe that will change where we go, who knows? And so I'm gonna leave it open for each party. Again, if there are any legal or factual issues we need to be aware of at this point in time, I would ask that each party get those to us by the close of business on Friday, 4 o'clock.
Yep.
You know, just like we did with the prior, this Friday, this coming Friday, so what's today, the 7th? So the
June
10th,
9th.
the 9th?
June 9th. It's graduation day.
Oh, yeah,
June 9th.
that's right, yeah.
Side garden party day.
So if you could get those in, any legal or factual issues that we need to be aware of by June 9th. And then at that point, you know, we're gonna, of course, engage our own attorney in some of this as well. if need be.
Are you scheduling it for a follow-up meeting, Mr. Chair, or are you going to wait?
Yeah, what day, well, let's talk about that in a minute, but I'd like to hear Berwick.
So at risk of my board killing me, two things. One, Danny and I can both attest to the fact that unfortunately, realtors often tell homeowners whatever it takes to sell the house, and that is not on the developer.
We can't hear.
Oh, sorry, I have
Talk
a
louder.
habit of having them on, yeah, well, you tell me to shut up too. Usually my board.
It's gonna be the job.
It's gotta be. So I've run into this, and I know Jenny has repeatedly too, is unfortunately, and we do feel for you guys, because realtors often say things that are not necessarily true in relation to what's gonna happen further on down the road, especially in areas with large parcels sitting out behind them. I currently am dealing with, well, our board is currently dealing with this with 2 developments. And the unfortunate reality is the developer is not responsible for what a realtor says. So it's not on the developer if a realtor fails to notify you, or like in one of ours, realtor told people, don't worry, that 100+ acres will never be developed. You know, if they want to go through the tulips, that's their deal. It's not the developer's mistake, so to speak. So I don't feel like we can punish the developer for a realtor giving homeowners wrong information. Yeah, I'm trying to be nicer.
That's
I gotta
really
be
nice.
nice. The other thing is I know for myself, and I think probably most, if not all of my board, that alternative road going out to Night. Oh God, this getting old thing sucks. The going out to Knights Pond Road, that area, all of that wetland impacts We've been working very hard in Berwick because right now, as you guys know, everything in Berwick, South Berwick, North Berwick's getting built up. We're dealing with a lot of wetland impacts. Our board has been very concerned about minimizing wetland impacts. So what if we have a viable option that doesn't lead to doubling the impervious disruption of a wetland? I kind of feel
Yeah,
like we
well-
have to consider the environment as this.
Well, my general understanding would be to the DEP permitting, they're gonna say to you, are there any other viable alternatives?
Yes,
Because we're not gonna permit that unless there are no other viable alternatives. We get caught in this.
Avoidance and minimization.
Yeah, we get caught in this catch 22. And then it will significantly alter your SLOTA application too that you're working on. So,
Especially where we have already provided them with the
Yeah.
alternative.
understood.
and that is a significant, if
Yep.
I recall correctly, your numbers, that's like basically it will double the wetland impact.
Yes, just about, Irish.
Okay.
Tony,
Just a point of order, the developer hired the builder and hired the real estate agent that put the sign out at the beginning of our development that never showed the connecting road. So I understand that realtors are not always, gonna give you the full story, but those of us who were there, the first round of homeowners in the neighborhood, I think I was number 4, we were told that the road was supposed to connect to give us an emergency access. And there was property back there and there was some thought that maybe at some point they would do something, but the intent was to connect that road out to Industry Drive. So we'd have a backdoor emergency egress. And that has never been maintained for us.
So, as devil's advocate here.
Hold on,
yeah, we
let
don't
me
need to
say
go,
it,
yeah.
because I know what you're gonna say, and let me say it if that's okay.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Let's say tomorrow, let's story time. Let's say tomorrow, this developer sold this piece of property. Because of the South Berwick land use and the way it's written, and because of the Berwick land use and the way it's written, this land can be developed. I think that our board, I'm gonna speak for you guys, and I'm gonna speak for Berwick for a second. I think that our board and Berwick has done a really nice job listening to all the concerns. I think that Mr. Wood has done a nice job trying to deal with the concerns. We sent him an email at 10 o'clock today and he produced it, a full plan for this meeting to see it like as a whole, okay? I think that the homeowners association has done a nice job. This is what I'm gonna say to you, and it's, don't take this the wrong way for anyone sitting in the room, okay? When you buy a house, and I have this conversation with people all the time. When you buy a house, you own what you own. You own your land, you own your house, you own that box from the ground to the sky as far up as you want. You don't own your neighbor's house, you don't own your neighbor's lot, you don't own, I understand you guys are in a subdivision in a homeowners association, but you don't own that back parcel. Meadow Pond is a public road in South Berwick. It can be accessed through other forms. There are other towns that could seek our board for access to those roads. And I know that's tough. I will tell everybody, I have the best neighbors in the world because this stuff doesn't come up in my neighborhood, right? And everybody gets along and everything's great. That's not reality. You own what you own. That's it.
Okay, I love that because yes, you're 100% correct, but that's actually not where I was going surprisingly.
Oh, well,
It triggered
that's
me
right.
a little too. It triggered me a little different direction because I'm now genuinely confused and I'm really not trying to be a jackass here, pardon my language. But I'm really confused because what you just said is that you guys were told from the day you were buying it that there would be an access out to Industry Drive. And here we are with Mr. Wood and Mick presenting this plan to go out through Industry Drive and you guys are trying to halt it. So I'm now confused because you just said that you were told it would be there and it would be maintained and now you're saying you didn't, but you were saying you didn't have
What we
it.
have said from the very beginning of these discussions is that we were told there would be an access road for emergency access out to Industry Drive off the end of Meadow Pond. That's why that right of way was there and it was supposed to be maintained and open for emergency access since 2008, and it hasn't been. So there was discussion, oh, there's a bunch of property back there. They've stored telephone poles back there, they've moved dirt piles all over the place, I mean, so they've used it for a variety of things. The only thing that we were made aware of was, there was the potential to connect it to Industry Drive for an emergency egress for us.
But so you were aware there would be a road and you bought
But
it
not-
thinking, but you bought it thinking there would be a road, but now you don't want the road there.
We don't want the 35 homes worth of traffic coming through that road, that's number one. Number two, Jenny, to part of it.
I think you've done a nice job. Don't,
But to address your point, we, as a homeowners association, own in joint property some of the space within our development. So it's not just our property and our house and our, lot. We own the neighborhood.
and guess
But
what?
you
You
don't own
still
the
will,
neighborhood.
but you still will. And that's the point I'm trying to make, because, and you and I have had several conversations about this. I see your point. I see everyone's point, all 18 homeowners that come in here. I just want to tell you from my standpoint, from Irish's standpoint, us doing our job. If the land use says it can go there, it's gonna go there. It's how we condition it going there and moving forward is what makes sense here. So I think that it's fair, right, for the homeowners association, and our board can speak on this where they don't have to. It's fair for the homeowners association to say, if this goes through, what are some of the things that we want to see conditioned on this application? And that's where you guys should be headed at this point, I think.
Yes, exactly.
So they, so hang on, we're trying to get too many.
Is
Yeah.
not against the development.
Right,
The houses are fine. If on the prior meeting, what the gentleman said is true, it's a negative to South Berwick income wise, the generation of property taxes to kids going to school is actually a loss for South Berwick. If what the gentleman said last meeting is true. We as a development have been there for 15 years and have generated $2 million in property taxes. We're just asking for either a crash gate or mitigation because it's completely changing the fabric of the development. We're not against the households. If they can put in 100 households there, it's whatever you guys want to do. Can you just mitigate or eliminate the use of metal ponds?
so what you should be asking for.
Yeah, so let me, so we're going a lot of different directions. Is there anything new here? Because I keep asking that. I want to give the public an opportunity to speak. The HOA has been clear. You have documentation that you've given to us with several other ideas. I think on some of the letters that you sent us, you had talked about traffic calming measures, various forms of that. I get it. Those are things that are absolutely up for consideration as we move on in this process. But again, I want to go back and say, are there any legal or factual issues that we need to be aware of at this point in time? And I'm going to give everybody until
Or other suggestions.
everybody will hear. So each party is represented by counsel. I'd like to hear from counsel if there are any legal or factual issues that we need to understand in the decision-making process that may cause us to be concerned. I think that's one item. We will review those with our attorney. Item two is you as public are more than welcome to submit additional comments to us up until 4 o'clock, and that's when this public portion of the public hearing is coming to an end. But we're going to allow you to continue to submit any written testimony up until Friday at 4. And so that way we can get everything on the table.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Jenny.
What might be helpful, don't say something, what might be helpful, and we used to do this in Berwick, maybe they still do, with any new subdivision that comes in, the superintendent of the school was contacted and they wrote a letter speaking on if the school could hold the additional students that may enter. And you'd be surprised to know that a lot of times in Berwick, she would write back stating that the numbers in the schools were actually down and it would actually be a benefit to the school. So maybe South Berwick should really look into doing that, and that would be helpful to some of the applicants. Just my thought.
Okay, yeah, okay, interesting. I have a list here of 7 items that we need to discuss with council.
I think Phil's one.
Oh,
There's one last alibi. If Industry Drive is utilized, and that is a private road, am I correct in that?
Yes,
And they maintain the road and they do snow removal. Would the HOA be on the hook for the end of where it currently terminates into the development for those services? Because
the private road, Industry Drive as a private road would have to be extended to the town line. And because the road on the other side is public, the town of South Berwick maintains it. So the HOA would not be on the hook for that, is my understanding. With it being.
But there's a significant piece of road that goes from the end of the industrial complex to our town line. And I'm just curious who's gonna be on the hook for maintaining that? Is that gonna
That's
be
gonna
our?
be still continued private.
That'll
So
be
the
private.
continuation of the private.
Our
road.
public works director wrote a letter speaking on that. Just so you know, I don't know if you guys.
Yeah, I
received
think
it.
these are
If I could
issues.
just, it's gonna be a separate homeowners, it's not gonna be these folks.
I understand, gotta be a separate HOA. I just wanna make sure that they're amenable to that condition.
That would be a condition of when they buy.
Right,
it.
but can you place that? Do you have that ability in Berwick?
Only to the Berwick line. And then you
Right,
guys
so
own it
you
from
have the ability,
here.
well, some ordinances don't have the ability to do an HOA or force that, but this. Want to make sure you have that ability to do that.
I will double check our ordinances, although Hannah's sitting right there.
I'll say,
Wouldn't
same
be
thing.
kind of weird to do so, but it's gonna be for people living on town lines, they may say, what are our plow drivers gonna do? If we're requiring two access for our own ordinance. You know, and this part of the road is a plow, not maintained, it's effectively should have been. Those are some, again, that's on my list of issues, so. I'm gonna call this public hearing to an end. The public portion is done. Oh,
I just wanted to answer your question. From the homeowner's perspective, I don't have any more factual or legal
Okay.
issues to
okay,
raise.
fair enough.
I just wanted to make sure I understood what Jenny was saying. She said the homeowners association should let people know what they want. Is that part of this public hearing? Is she looking for something more on that?
I'm not looking for anything. I'm just saying that the board can condition the application and there's gonna be a time, or maybe not, but when the time comes, it would be nice for the current homeowners to be able to talk to our board and have some input on what's conditioned. That's normal practice.
Okay, so you're not asking for that before Friday?
No,
Okay,
board would have to ask for that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, my preference here is, listen, we have a lot of people here, you know. Personally, I'd like that by Friday because, you know, the homeowners association already, we have information from you where you have outlined some of your desires. Okay, I've read that. If there's anything else, I don't know why it would take how much longer to state something. Here's the issue. We do need to give some direction to the applicants here in terms of you know, some level of expectation. We can't just keep coming at them. You know, 3 meetings down, 4 meetings down, we're gonna wind up right where we were with some prior applications from Benelot Road, you know? And that was like a year-long process. We're not looking to go down that road. So, you know, we owe it to them and they have a right to some of this information. There are timelines within our ordinances that do require us to act in a certain time frame. So I don't see why it's unreasonable to ask for you folks in the HOA to get us any additional thoughts that you have on. I have some of my own. And there will be an opportunity as this progresses. We're not going to say no to public comment. You will have an opportunity at future meetings to comment on something. And we will allow that. So that's, you know, perfectly okay from my perspective as the chair to do that.
okay. I'm comfortable getting you our conditions, what their concerns are, their conditions. By, based upon what we know now, but we
Yeah, fair
still
enough.
don't know where the other access potentially is coming.
Yeah, I can understand that and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to close this public hearing. We're done. So let's talk about at this point, follow-up date.
Can we just clarify, are you closing the public hearing altogether now?
I'm closing the public presence portion and I'm leaving the comment period open. The bylaws allow me to leave it open for, I think, up to 3 days. And I'm saying whatever, 2 days until Friday at 4.
So we will not be going forward with another public hearing on this. I want to
No,
make sure we don't
this is,
have to.
no, this is that we've done.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mr. Chair, can I just ask procedurally, just because I'm not familiar with how
Yeah.
this board proceeds? So what is the board envisioning for additional reviews for this?
so your application right now is preliminary. And so we're going to continue to review it as a preliminary application. I think the best thing to do is for you, let's come up with a date of continuance to continue with this. And I'm gonna touch base with you because I have questions and any other issues that come up between now and Friday from a legal and factual perspective will be shared with our attorney. And then from there, we will then re-engage in public deliberations at our next meeting. I don't believe we are in a desire of any of this board to arbitrarily hold you up in this process. Again, we have obligations that we're required to fulfill.
Right, and I wasn't.
Yeah, oh, no. And so that's what I see. So I guess the bigger question that we're getting into is summer. When can we get everybody together? The next meeting is on the 21st. We're not going to be ready by the 21st. If you want to allow us the adequate time to get answers to our questions and anything that might come up. So we're talking July, and July 5th is, we need to talk about that. July 5th has always been a rough, as you know, I've listened, as July 4th, people typically take that week off. And we're all volunteer here, so there needs to be some understanding of this. So our next meeting is in July what?
July 19th.
So it'd be July 19th would be the next available date. And again, you'll have access to whatever the information we have. We're not gonna hold anything out on it.
And will we, when you get, response back from the town's attorney, will that be made available?
Depending on the nature of the communication,
Right, sure.
that will be communicated with you. And we'll have, we may need to have an executive session in this board, depending, and because that may lead to some conditions. We don't know. I don't know yet. But we'll have to hear from the attorney, and if we can release it, we will. That would be the preference, again, just so for fair and transparent process. But again, I'm not going to make a guarantee that it will. So it looks like the 20, and yeah.
One thing that I kind of wanted to circle back to, the board, at least to my satisfaction, hasn't discussed the idea of this alternate or any alternate access that may connect to North Berwick.
Yeah,
I want to make sure the board kind of has some direction as to whether or not they want the applicant to continue to explore that or not.
fair
Then
enough.
we need to involve North Berwick, and we shouldn't talk about it further until they're here.
Yeah,
So I just want to make sure
Yeah.
the board makes some kind of direction towards the applicant for that, so we know if we need to involve North Berwick and include them in our scheduling
Yeah.
debacle as well.
so as proposed, what's the sentiment of the board? As proposed on this piece of paper.
I think,
Leave the door open for you never know what's gonna come up.
I think everybody knows that that was never a viable solution.
Yeah.
I mean, why did we even put it in the paper? It's not,
Yep.
the state's not gonna grant it, we're not gonna grant it, so why was it even put in the paper?
I
Let's
think
put it
it'll
to
be a
bed.
non-starter when we get going. That's my own position.
But I would still like the opportunity to have a discussion with the developer about a possibility that wouldn't be this long
So-
circuitous route. I'd like to have that conversation, and that would involve North Berwick.
So we can't force him to have that level of conversation, but nothing stops you and your counsel from communicating with him outside of the meeting to discuss what the HOA may be able to do. I don't know what that is.
But I hope this board will recognize that that proposal was not put forth in good faith, because he knew it was.
Yeah, well,
Like, that's what's so upsetting. Like, there's other options. We started by talking about Stone Lane,
yeah,
and it just somehow got disappeared here.
yeah, but we heard about Stone Lane and they don't have an interest in Stone Lane from a ownership perspective. And we can't tell them to go out and buy it.
But he put a proposal that he
Yeah.
knew wouldn't be accepted. It's
And,
frustrating.
and I can't speak to that. All I can say is I suspect when it goes through DEP permitting, it wouldn't be allowed.
We put
With
the,
another alternative being available, which is Industry Drive.
we put the proposal in front of everyone so you can see that it's not viable. If I was up here trying to talk about it without having anything for you to look at, I don't think I could have adequately explained it.
No, we appreciate being able to see that there are viable, more viable options
All
that
right.
you didn't explore.
Limit Stone Lane still for them.
No, that's, I just said, we just said we can't help force them to buy in North.
We can't force them to buy, but we can't.
No, I know,
force
but
them
they
to-
are-
we can't-
Yeah, I mean, it sounds great.
Yeah.
It
that's not
does,
good,
but-
That they own.
Irish, I don't want to oversimplify, but if I'm understanding, if we could frame this correctly, if the town of Berwick is in agreement, and you say James is in agreement that we can allow them to use Industry Drive, That's our piece to the town line, period, right?
Yes,
So Hannah, would we be premature in saying this evening that, as you said, James has approved that? Berwick is amenable to that with the understanding that it's a private road and there need to be provisions for snow removal and maintenance, and it needs to be brought up to standards. And then that removes us from the process altogether, and then it's on you guys. I just want to make sure that that is procedurally correct and we can do that.
and to clarify.
It doesn't
James-
remove you until we have those road
No.
standards, just
Yes.
saying.
Understood.
Right.
But
Yeah, you still play that critical point there, and somewhere there needs to be a motion made to,
and to
if it needs
clarify.
to, if it needs to go there, you may have prior conditions that just simply need to be enforced.
But to clarify for my board, it's not just a matter of James said that we would approve that he's in agreement with it. James very specifically said that our ordinance does not allow us to prohibit it.
Right.
So we cannot say they can't do it.
Hannah, are we within our powers to make a motion to approve the access through Industry Lane,
Industry drive.
Industry Drive, with the understanding that they're on the hook for road maintenance, bringing the road up to standard and snow clearance? Is that a reasonable motion that we can make? And then it's a South Berwick issue and it's no longer
Condition, it'd be a
a condition, correct?
The HOA to take control of the maintenance.
Is that appropriate at this time?
Or do they still have to come before our board, I think is what you're asking.
Well, I guess the question would be, was this properly noticed on your end as an official meeting? Otherwise, you can't think, you shouldn't do it.
Okay.
No, and I believe we still have to have our public comment period for our citizens, yes?
I thought everything's done through here.
Yeah.
Everything is done through
The
here.
point that I had brought up earlier as to whether or not they had to go in front of your board was if they were changing the design of Industry Drive, that would then change their subdivision of Industry Drive, which is separate from this portion of you deciding whether or not they can use that as access.
Right, but they may have to go back and place it big if,
So we,
they may have to go back and place additional conditions. We don't know what those are, right?
but that would be a separate, if I recall, if I'm catching what Hannah's saying, and I have, you know, I'm a code enforcement officer, I build buildings.
Yeah.
I swing hammers, I do drywall, I don't do planning. So if I'm understanding what Hannah is saying correctly, I'm gonna dumb it down for myself. So we can, the board here can, our board can say, all right, Industry Drive, it's a go, they just have to come see us. And then that's it for that, and then when they come see us on Industry Drive, that's when we would condition whatever we're conditioning. For road standards, et cetera, for their upgrade for that.
And that was kind of, I brought it up in the, if they actually have to do that.
Yeah, dumb it
If
down.
they do have to come to Berwick for an amendment to that subdivision for the improvements to Industry Drive, which I'll be honest, I don't know if that's actually the case or not, but if it is,
We'll look into that.
yes. That is where Berwick would put those conditions on the road, and the same conditions would be put on these plans to make sure it happens everywhere.
Well, not to make it unnecessarily arduous on the developer, but should we schedule this for our next meeting then and vote on it then? Is
I
that
think we need to
okay?
determine whether they actually need to do that.
Yeah.
However, that is separate from
Yeah.
you determining whether or not they can use Industry Drive as access.
Help me understand. So.
Yeah,
are you-
we do buildings.
So hold on a second, because I've asked these questions before. My question is what you're saying, if we bring up Industry Drive to standards, then they have to vote on it to change the amendment plan if they pave it?
I'm not hearing that.
Well-
What I'm hearing, what I'm hearing here, Jenny, I think is we don't know what the conditions of approval were. And that may suffice to just bring it up to whatever that was. Now, we know the road is gonna be an issue, that the requirements of the road construction. I guess I question it is if they're gonna place additional conditions, now we're really talking what would sound to me at least like a site plan amendment.
Well, the road has to be brought up to state standards.
Right, but if you're talking about placing additional conditions on the road, you may need to have an additional site plan amendment.
Right, I guess the reason that I brought up them going to Berwick at all is if, when Industry Drive was approved,
Yeah.
if approved as a industrial subdivision, there was a road design submitted to that. If anything that they plan to do to improve Industry Drive as part of this whole project is different from that, then that subdivision plan needs to be amended to show that different road profile.
Yeah.
My question ultimately is whether or not that's a full planning board process, whether or not that can be approved by the Berwick board at this meeting. That part I do not know.
I think I finally caught on. So step one. I'm telling you, I've built houses. I build houses all day. Do this stuff. So step one is gonna be basically me digging out their original approval and seeing if what's there for the road actually matches what they have and what they have there. Because that was my other concern is, was it built to the town line? Because if not, it's a change of what they've got there. So I need to pull out their old plans, see what they're approved for, see what they've got there and see what they're proposing here. And if any difference between the three, then step two would be you and I deciding if they need to come back before the board.
Yeah, and I think that.
Are you amenable to bringing the road up to state standards?
Town.
I think when
I said you would.
Yeah, I think when Hannah first brought it up, I agreed that I would send you the approved plans, and I believe we have the DEP approval, and I'm pretty sure we will be bringing the road up to the standard that was approved. So Irish, instead of you digging it out, I think I had agreed to send it.
I
To
will
you.
push your cheek because I'm getting about 50 emails a day,
Yeah.
so finding it would be a nightmare. I would kiss your
I have it, and I can send it to you, and I will copy Hannah and Jack. And I believe it'll be resolved.
So then my only question is, do I have to have all that information you guys Friday at 4?
No, that's a Berwick issue.
Okay,
That's a
well, I
Berwick
don't,
issue.
I don't want it to be the
Yeah.
cause for this being
No,
held up.
no,
So
no, we're gonna come back and discuss this, I think, if board's in concurrence for the July.
Hold on just for a second,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Okay.
We're finding that answer for you right now.
Oh, are you?
I hope to not overcomplicate it.
But
by
hang
bringing
on,
that up, but
so while you're figuring that out, what does this board want to do with this road? Yes or no? The access point through North Berwick? No. No,
The alternate,
yeah,
that's one,
yeah, okay.
not as proposed.
So, thank you for giving us that alternate. I think unless we see something different, you're left with Industry Drive. Would you like that to be a motion? Why don't we make that a motion,
Mr. Chair, before you do that,
yeah. We don't
I
have
don't
to,
see
yeah, we
how
don't
it-
have to, we don't need to make it a motion.
Oh, this is just.
I don't know that it improves anything, though, I mean,
Yeah.
the traffic,
It doesn't do anything. That's a useless exercise.
does this even, I mean, if
EJ.
a development in Southburg requires 2 points,
Yes,
so this is 1 point near the other, would we be doing this and Industry Drive?
no, it'd be one or the other.
If it's one or the other, then we still need the one through Meadow Pond.
We would still need this one.
So it's
basically.
going. Sorry,
Go ahead.
we would still need Industry Drive.
Yes.
And that, but they're both at the same time.
You would need the existing Meadow Pond.
Yes, that's my point.
And basically what we're
One
telling
or the
him
other.
is, thank you for
I don't think
submitting
it
your
meets the
proposal.
homeowner's interests
Yeah,
to have this proposed, or even maybe necessarily other, if they still.
so barring any other revelation, it looks like you're going through Industry Drive for purposes of this plan. Barring any other revelation that we are unaware of. And perhaps that's gonna come up with a conversation with the HOA. So which gets into the conditions of approval. Okay,
Can I just ask, can you just be really clear? You don't own Stone Lane. And you don't have any right of way to it?
We have no right title or interest in Stone.
Do you have a
Lane.
right of way on it?
No, and there's,
You
a-
don't have an easement on it?
no,
None
and
of
at
that.
the end of Stone Lane, there's that large pond that we saw on our site walk.
Right.
That somehow you'd have to get across.
Okay, so the easement you had requested, it looks like, was really the road that went across. There's like a dirt road that intersects Stone Lane and goes across to Industry Drive. It looks like an easement or a right of way had been requested.
That was on the northeast concrete lot, I believe.
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
That they actually are.
We don't have any right title or interest in Stone Lane, and it's not a deeded right of way.
That's not-
yeah, no,
I'll let Hannah. Okay, you want me to say it? Sure. Okay, so Lee J, I
Yeah.
just asked him all the questions that you guys have concerns with.
Thank you.
The Berwick Planning Board can vote for the use of Industry Drive and just say a condition of that approval is that DOT whatever, and to bring the road up to standards. You guys could do that, and if you did that tonight, it would excuse you from all future meetings if you wish.
I will make a motion.
Can I just clear, just looking at some of the legal issues here, was it a properly noticed meeting? That's all I want to ask, you know, I mean,
Yeah, that
that's an
would be
important
So
aspect.
Industry Drive is aware that the industrial park is aware that this is happening, correct?
And all the abutters get notice from our
And
office.
And they have been notified of these meetings,
Yeah, because they showed up to the site walk.
okay? Do
Yeah.
they need to be here for us to make that motion?
The abutters?
No, I
Correct.
don't need.
No, because nobody has to show up to make a motion. This could be an empty crowd right now.
I would like to make a motion that we approve from the Berwick side access via Industry Drive with the conditions that the new development homeowners association will maintain the road to town standards and be responsible for snow removal for access for their homeowners
And the DOT,
and the DOT,
the DOT, upgrade, the.
right, up to current standards.
Updated DOT permit.
Correct, yeah.
Sorry, that was too many words.
All in favor? Further discussion?
Wait.
Further discussion?
Who seconded that?
Ms. Rand?
All in favor?
All right.
Thank you.
Congratulations, you inherited it.
You know, yes.
No, you still own it. We're still on it, but.
All right, we own it. So we're gonna come back to discuss the preliminary and give a sample time just to kind of review and assess the current vast amount of information that we already have. And we'll have a discussion on the preliminary plan and whether that will move forward, I think on the 19th.
Yes, July
Is that July 19th? Yeah.
Yeah,
Is everybody gonna be there at that meeting? Anybody on vacation? I know July 5th wasn't gonna work.
Zach is never leaving that chair for any.
No one's there.
Quit.
All right. Yeah.
And it just is maybe like repetitive of maybe a prior meeting, I'm not sure. Has an updated study, if you will, been done? This is an age-old project. This has been a long time. But has an updated study been done? You brought up the school earlier, traffic, safety, police, fire, I mean, all of the relative, I mean, has anything updated in today's standards? Really? I mean,
Yeah.
we're a much busy town
Yeah.
than what we were 20 years ago.
Yeah,
Very.
and we could make that available. We do have that, the updated traffic studies, all the updated inland fish and wildlife studies. Schools, no, haven't asked schools. Unless you have, I haven't.
School,
So here's the thing.
school enrollment is dropping.
Yeah,
Pretty
it's
sure.
Yeah, I know,
it.
they've
But
already
here's the thing,
advertised that.
here's the thing. No, we have not reached out. It's not in our
Yeah.
ordinance to do
Yep.
so.
Yeah, well, I'm just
But it
answering
is
the
another
question.
layer.
Yeah.
When
No,
it's
fair enough.
we've now offered Rollinsford students to be, they transition in,
Yeah.
we've had students come in, so we have bucked up those numbers a little bit. So, you know,
Yep.
kind of where that shakes out, 37 houses would be
Yeah,
pretty
quite a bit,
impactful,
quite a
one way or the
bit.
other.
Quite a bit,
Well,
yeah.
for what it's worth,
Yeah.
we've been watching the growth in Berwick because obviously it's concern for citizens everywhere. And we are, if I recall the numbers correctly, 3 students down from where we were when we put a growth 10 years after we put a growth permit on to 1990s. So we're actually lower in Berwick on students despite the amount of growth that we're dealing with. So reaching out to the schools is usually, like Jenny said, very, very enlightening.
It is enlightening.
And
So we don't have to do it, but to answer your point, all those documents are available online under the planning board agendas and minutes in the packet. And all that information has been updated appropriately with emails or correspondence. So you can check it out there, and if you need help finding it, we'd be glad to send it.
Yeah, that was required when they started the process. Sure, go ahead, sir.
Just
Yeah.
a comment. My name is Alan Savinsky. I live at 96 Knights Pond Road. I see Knights Pond every day. This proposed project is my understanding that it'll have water, they will have individual septic
Yes,
Okay. That area, I've lived in this town all my life. That is a pretty wet area there. And now is this going to, the septic system is going to, in any way, to any best knowledge, going to contaminate the aquifer that runs through that area and runs all the way into York?
I don't have an answer for that. I know we've done the necessary, you've done the necessary scientific soil surveys that dictate what you can and can't do in that particular area, which then drives subdivision itself. I can't speak to the contamination issue other than it would, whatever happens has to meet the requirements, and ultimately, when it goes to the building permit, it's gonna have to go to Health and Human Services anyway for the.
Okay, so all these permits are issued at once.
Yeah.
They've got the green light to put in town water, whatever town that comes from, and the septic. Is each septic inspected by this town?
Yes, yeah, and each one is,
One-on-one.
yeah, and each septic has to be signed off on in what they call an HHE 200 form, has to be signed off with a design on each and every septic, and that would then be on file within the town itself.
It would be awful strange if in the first year of this approval, we received 35 building permits for this project. And our land use doesn't even allow us to grant 35 building permits in a subdivision in 1 year.
How many are granted in the
I think it's 18.
18? Okay, so you have to be there.
Yeah, but it's not just this one subdivision. There's plenty of other subdivisions in town that we have to
True.
keep count of.
True.
Okay,
Cause
So
that
the field conditions would also determine whether or not, I mean, you're not gonna really know, I mean, you got test pits, but until you get out there and start digging.
We have satisfactory test pits on each lot that have been excavated in accordance with the plumbing code, chapter 245, which is the main subsurface wastewater code. All the test pits, we've proven that there are at least 2, I believe, acceptable test pits on each parcel. So we make sure we have enough area and enough native soils to put in a septic, a wastewater disposal field that meets the state standard.
What is the average size of these lots?
Oh, they're the same size as Meadow Pond 1 and Meadow Pond 2. I believe they're half to an acre.
Half,
They range from, I believe, a half to 1 acre.
half to 1 acre, so it's 1 acre would be the largest lot. My big concern is contamination of Knight's Pond and the water treatment.
Well, we follow the Maine State Plumbing Code, which ensures that there's no contamination to the groundwater. You know, Maine has been very careful over the years of protecting their groundwater sources. They've always called Maine a state that's rich in groundwater, and they've always protected that resource. The plumbing code has strict standards that would be 9 inches of native soil outside the shoreline zone, 15 inches if you're in it, and usually a separation distance from the bottom of the bed to the restricted layer is 24 inches. So it's a pretty restrictive code. And the test pits that we've submitted to the town and to DEP meet the code. That's how we ensure that we can get a wastewater system in that will not pollute the groundwater table.
they do satisfy the requirement on the plan for that.
The test pits have been done on each one of these lots.
Yeah, those are in the application.
No,
No.
two test
I believe we have
pits. Yeah.
Okay, well, again, that was, my concern, over the area geographically speaking. And what kind of impact that would have in that zone of South Carolina.
Fair enough. No, understood. Thank
Try to
you.
keep open space, keep things recreational, et cetera, because you do have the Night Brook, which does run out of that area. And crosses numerous people's properties, and then that runs into the Great Works Road.
Right, those have all been delineated in this process. So we made sure that they've stayed out of that.
Thank you.
All right, so, that could, we said, don't, you can use the industry drive barring some other revelation about another access point. That, I got nothing else.
Yeah.
We'll see you back on, July 19th.
Thank you, and thank you both boards. I realize we won't see Berwick again. Jenny,
Oh, you'll see Berwick again.
Jenny here and all the time. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
So, we still have just a couple items, so we could just keep it down so we can. A bit of like this. Well, no, hang on. Yeah, so. Yeah, okay, fair enough. All right, we're gonna postpone all that other stuff, board members, what's the desire? Want to adjourn? We had to have a public hearing discussion, kind of think about what. I don't know. Yeah, where the July 5th meeting is canceled.
Yeah, another thing, this little proposal he did with the townhouses, he's showing two access points going on to Route 4. We know the DOT is never gonna get them there. So you know what's gonna happen, we're gonna pop into Whitetail Drive.
That's why I'll be there tomorrow. Hey Troy, that's why I'll be there tomorrow night.
Oh, North Berwick?
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can make that one.
6:30.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a workshop.
Right. Right. That's the discussion we have.
Okay, LD.
Yes. Go ahead, Tony, while we're trying to.
Well, I just, while it's all fresh. Well, it was always the plan to develop this parcel. into Industry Drive. Why did we spend all this time tonight talking about what could be done with Industry Drive? Who this is connected and what would have to be included, and all of these questions about they developed the Industry Drive industrial park. Nick Corporation owned land, they developed that. And I know, but it's the intent is always. They did plan to connect to Industry Drive, even though our plan said that is what they were to do.
And I think Greg has said this, and Dennis said this, and people said this, people own land and they get. I'm not a pro and I am a housing developer myself, right? So, and dirt roads made.
I didn't get that. I didn't.
And we're housing prices. I mean, yeah, but.
Might be good. But the problem is, we have said. Talk to them, they don't, about me, let's talk about alternatives. Alternative has been time. Connect to Battle Pond Road and, maybe. And then they throw this nonsense at you guys today. I mean, that's just.
Industry Drive, we're better. And things.
Let's get the stuff that we'll go through. We're gonna go methodically through this.
And
We're gonna go very methodically through.
I've asked, our attorney has asked, I've asked again for us to speak and I got so. I know.
Board members, hey, Jenny. Hey, Jenny. We want to go to meeting.
Nobody finishes the Vader, and you carry your office over and you finish it, and then everything comes to the end of the day. Am I right? Last year, after dinner,
All right, so
let's do this. Do it right.
Jenny, we have a meeting.
Irish.
They are great. I don't have any.
We wait so we can finish. Later.
All right. So, folks, we have a pre-scheduled workshop at 6 o'clock.
I just want.
Yeah. We have a pre-scheduled workshop at 6 o'clock on the 21st. That's to go over the LD 2003. Okay, so 21st, everybody gonna be there, or who wants to be there, gonna be there?
I need to look up and see how I could possibly zoom in, but that's the
Okay.
only way.
I would actually rather not be in the,
You busy?
Portsmouth Pride is June
Okay,
24th.
fine, so-
I'm hosting 10,000 people and I'm
You got-
sort of busy at work.
Okay, sure, fine, we got time, so cancel it. I don't want to be here any more news, so I'm good with that.
Okay, you're gonna cancel the 21st. We don't have forms.
Beginning, 21st is canceled, we're not gonna have quorum for the workshop. But we're gonna have to meet on the 21st anyway. We're gonna have a quorum for the meeting. You're not gonna be here, Hershey. You gonna be here on the 21st?
I will have to get back to you and see if I can zoom in.
Okay,
That's the only way.
So Aaron will be here though, so.
right, so we can pull him
Do
in.
we already have an agenda set? for the 21st?
Hold on, but wait. Because of what,
Yesterday.
hold on, because of what's gonna be on the agenda for that one, do we have the people here that are gonna be able to speak to vote on that?
Is 406 on the agenda for the 21st? Because it doesn't matter if I'm here or not then, because I'm recused.
No, I think we're looking
I
at
don't know
the,
what's on the agenda right now for the 21st. I'm just putting it out there.
Well, okay, so
We
before
do not have a
cancel.
formal application at this point.
what,
Okay,
what's that?
So we do not have a formal application submitted from 406.
So there's been no talk about when and if it comes back.
They have until next week to submit, right?
Well, they'll have the Tuesday before the meeting like everybody else to
Yeah.
submit.
Yeah, they
Right.
still have time to submit if they wanted to.
Is-
We don't have anything.
Do we know
But the
any-
issue is, to Bill's point, Zach will not be here, so we will not have a quorum.
have to
Zach is
check.
trying to be here. He's on the fence. So if Zach can get back to us by Friday at close of business at 4, that'd be great.
Is
Then we
Aaron-
can-
If it's
we can get
technically
that out of the way.
possible, I will do my very best,
Then we
but
can
I
get
have to
that-
confirm that I
figure
can't
out
say
where that is.
today.
Fine.
So the 21st is on normal time, 7 o'clock. We'll figure out what's on the agenda. You have to come.
Okay, so
No
we're
workshop.
not.
No workshop, 6 o'clock workshop, we're not gonna do.
So right now, we know that we have a new application for Berwick Academy that's pending. They'll be on the 21st. We have PKS Woodworks that we're gonna have their findings of fact on the 21st. Everything else,
Yeah.
What's the
Okay.
Berwick Academy application?
Before we adjourn, we
Field
need
study.
to- before we adjourn, we need to also go back to the business and approve the findings of fact
yes, please.
for the golf course. So is
Yes,
there a
please.
motion to approve the findings of fact?
Didn't we have a bunch of questions?
No, we didn't.
We didn't?
No,
No.
Oh, I thought we did.
It
Okay.
was just the reorganization of the space.
Yeah, they're moving things around.
Doing where the kitchen.
I
We approved it, we approved it.
We did.
already. Is there a motion to approve MSP 2300?
I make a motion to approve MSP
Findings of fact.
findings of 23005 Outlook Farm Golf Club.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, been moved. Any, is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes on the findings of fact. So we have, we sent the merger policy to the board. Redbird is approved. We did two findings of fact. Outlook is approved. Findings of fact are done. And Sandville is going to come back on, I think it's July 19th.
I see.
Well, because we're canceling the meeting on the 5th.
Okay. All right, that's fine.
And so it'd be July 19th, correct?
Okay.
Okay, so we'll hear back from Sandville on July 19th. Public hearing, nothing, and have we completed everything on our agenda? I would say yes.
so did you guys discuss and vote for that July 5th meeting?
We're canceling the meeting.
Want to vote on it?
Yeah, all in favor of canceling the July 5th meeting? Been moved, it's been moved, is there a second? Okay, second by Bill, all in favor? July 5th is canceled. July 5th, okay, we good? July
Yeah.
5th canceled?
Hmm.
And so that means we'll meet again on July 19th.
Okay.
At which
21st
point?
and
June
June
21st.
June
June
And June
21st
21st,
And then July.
and July 19th.
yeah.
Aye. again, can't.
And
confirm I will be
what-
available.
Yeah.
But Aaron will be here with
But you'll be available on the 19th for sure.
Yes.
You're gonna let us know about the 21st,
Yes.
just to clarify.
Correct.
Yep.
You got it.
19th, I am available.
So that will dictate whether or not we have quorums.
Yes.
If we're really stuck and it's something I'm recused from on the 21st, let me know. I have something every single night that week. Sometimes 2 or 3 things, so.
When is that?
Huh?
The 21st?
June 21st.
Yeah, if you really need
That's
me
why we
and it's
canceled
not
the 6 o'clock.
what I'm recused from, let me know and I will.
All right.
I will.
There a motion to
Um,
adjourn?
Even with Aaron, though, he can be a voting member and if they would have a quorum of 3, so.
That's fine.
I motion we adjourn. Moving seconded. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion, okay, meeting is over. Thank you, folks.
Um,
Yeah, hang on.